Welcome to another episode of that Grief Relief podcast. I'm Katie, and today is another Zoom episode, and I'm really excited to finally be speaking to Emma, that girl with grief from Instagram, because we've been speaking for so long and trying to arrange it, and I keep forgetting to get back to you and whatever. But Emma, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me. Finally made it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm so sorry. I was going through, and I've got like notes on my phone, notes on my laptop, all these kind of, I'm like, I swear I was speaking and you posted something the other day and I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't messaged Emma after all this time. So Emma, you are part of the wonderful grief community that is on Instagram, and that's how we kind of met each other and first started chatting. Are you in Bristol? Have I made that up?
I've now moved to London, but I was in Bristol for the last 8 years.
Last 8 years. To London. Really? Whereabouts in London are you?
Yeah. Battersea, so pretty central.
Very nice indeed. Yeah, lovely. Go near the cats and dogs home.
Yeah, literally 2 seconds away.
Are you really? Oh my God, it's such an amazing place. If you are listening and not from the UK or London, Battersea Dogs Home. I can't even say Battersea with a T in it. Battersea Dogs Home is an amazing animal shelter. Anyway, enough about that.
Okay.
The girl with grief. Tell me your story. Why did you start? I guess, hang on, let's start this properly. Tell me your story and your experience with grief and what you've gone through. And then in turn, like why you decided to move that onto the Instagram and the podcast yourself.
So I lost my mum when I was 15. It's actually 11 years ago today, which I thought, what a good way to come on the podcast today and talk about her.
Oh, my God, amazing.
Yeah. That's why I liked your one, because you're such a light-hearted podcast. I was like, oh, what a better day to do it.
Yeah, that's perfect. We're going to cheers Ali as well.
So I lost my mum when I was 15. It was a very sudden death. Me and my sister were casually getting ready for school and she collapsed upstairs, and the rest was history, really. Our life just went from 1 minute normal to the next minute turned upside down.
So was it a heart attack or?
Yeah, so she had a cardiac arrest at the time. It was a bit of a whirlwind. So it all happened. And obviously we're 15 and 17. So we're very, very young. Only us three that live at the home. So my auntie lives a few doors up. You've probably heard me talk about her many times, or you will throughout the podcast. And I ran up to her house and she came down and done whatever we had to do. So all went to the hospital. She was announced dead. So we were just like, what is going on? Like, they just said, cardiac arrest, we'll leave it there. Obviously, a few weeks later, once we had the post-mortem, it turned out she actually had a really rare cancer in her heart. So she just never ever knew about it. On the lead up to her death, I remember I was on a school trip, on a PE school trip somewhere, loving life. And my mum picked me up from the school trip and she just had a really bad cough. And we were like, oh, like, have you been to the doctor? She was like, yeah, I've just got a chest infection. Like, I've got an asthma pump. I'm fine, sort of thing. She was always someone that's still smiling. I'm fine, whatever. And then 3 weeks later, that was it. She just dropped dead.
Oh my God. And how old was she?
42, I want to say. 42, 43, 42, I think. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
like,
so really
sorry, if you're listening to this as opposed to watching on YouTube, I'm sitting here absolutely gobsmacked because, I always think about my mum collapsing and she was 60. And to me, that's young, but 42 is so young. And so it's interesting though, that they went on to do a post-mortem purely, I guess, because she was so young and so healthy and they wanted to know what was going on.
Yeah. So we kind of went into it. We were like, we don't know what's caused it. She has always been completely fine. Never been someone that's been ill. Never really even had a cold. I was always the ill one of the family. She was always just together.
You're the sicky child, were you?
I was the ones that always had germs. So yeah, we done the post-mortem, and then that's what came back. So it was a big shock to all of us. We were just like, we couldn't have caught it any earlier because nothing would have happened. Like, it's just something you got to accept, really.
I guess so. But as you say, at 15 and 17 and dad's not around. So they were separated. Your dad's alive, presumably.
That's
Um,
alive, that's around, just work together.
I was going to say, come on,
I
you
have,
can't
I,
compete with me.
I was gonna say both of them aren't dead like yours.
It's very funny. We're like 3 minutes in and we're just joking about dead parents. Okay, so dad wasn't around, they were separated. So it's just you. You were 15, your sister was 17. Like, obviously you had your auntie, as you say, you're really close, but I mean, what the hell goes through your mind then? Do you remember coming home from the hospital that day and just like, what?
Yeah, so it's a bit a bit mental. So my mum was a very out there person. She had so many friends, like really, really big groups of friends, that have known her since school, since recent years. So obviously, being such a shock, we were on our way to school. So we've obviously had to, someone, whoever it was, rang the school and said, the girls won't be in, this has happened, we'll leave it there.
Mm.
So we're at the hospital for hours, and friends were, with my mum's, were coming up, seeing her, doing whatever you got to do at the hospital. And then we all went back to my mum's best friend Jenny's house. And I remember us all just sitting in her garden. It was a bright summer's day. It was like, I must say, like 28 degrees. I remember we were all sweating. We're still in our school uniform because we were prepared to go to school. So we all just sat there. And I remember there was just hundreds of people just turning up at my mum's friend's door. And we were just like, is this, like, they're here to hear about mum, but they're not here to see mum, like, you know. And it was just putting two and two together. Normally we didn't see half of these people unless mum was with us, so it was just like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden people from school were messaging us, we've left school, we've gone home, can we come and see you? And we were just like, this is way too much for us to deal with today, like,
Yeah.
we just need to be, there's too many people about. So then we all decided that we'd go back to my auntie's house. Well, me, my sister, my auntie, my two cousins, just go back and just kind of try and take in what's just happened. But obviously within the first 24 hours, even the first 2 weeks, you don't take any of it in. It's just like one big blur.
And I mean, that's a lot to take on for an adult. Like, don't get me wrong, I mean, I know you're not a child at 15 and 17, but still, like, without that kind of life experience and whatnot taking on, did you, and sorry, what's your sister's name?
Danielle.
Did you and your sister, you know, were you close before? Have you been close since? Like, how did you two kind of deal with it together?
Yeah, so as a three, we were extremely close. I would say my sister and my mum were necessarily more so close because they worked together.
Okay.
They were around, yeah, they were together a lot more than obviously I was. But as a three, we were just, my dad kind of worked away a lot. So we have always, since we've been born, always been a close unit of us three. Yeah, so I think we both took it very, very differently. She kind of shut down a lot more, and I was kind of the one that was like, I've got to step up and be strong for everyone else.
Okay.
I hate the word strong. I've preached it many times, but in my mindset at 15, I was just like, no, my auntie's lost her sister, my nan's lost her daughter, my cousins lost their auntie, and I was like, someone's got to be strong in this situation. So just kind of put my level head on and dealt with it that way.
You lost your mum at 15.
I know. I there was just part of me that wouldn't acknowledge the emotions at all. It was just like, nope, it's gonna be fun. Like, it's just.
And just very quickly interjecting then, how were you as a 15-year-old in general? Like, were you in the popular group? Were you in the clever group? Were you in like the in-betweeners, as I was? You know, I wasn't cool. I wasn't a geek. I wasn't anything really. I was just straight down the middle. Like, so how were you? What made you, I'm just trying to work out why you've put this like level head on your shoulders at 15.
Yeah, I think as a teenager, I was always the very outgoing, gobby one, you could say that. Always quite outspoken. But then, yeah, I would say I was always had big groups of friends. So yeah, it was a bit of a nightmare in school, if I'm honest, compared to my sister. She was the very settled, quiet, well-behaved one. I was the one that was caused mum trouble.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I think you and I are remarkably similar, but let's not go into that. Okay. So yeah, then talk us through kind of the preceding sort of days after that, after losing your mum. Like, what on earth happens?
Yeah. So on the day it happened, we were kind of sat there, and I remember looking at my auntie and saying, "What happens now? Where do we go?" She was like, "You can stay here." She was like, "That's it." She was like, "I'm not going to make you go anywhere else. If you want to live with us, you live with us."
Mm.
So they live in a 3-bedroom house, 3 of them. They've now got an extra 2 kids from that day forward going into the house.
Yeah.
So you can imagine it was absolute carnage. But so the following few days was hard, obviously arranging funerals and things like that. I struggled a lot with that. Everyone else was very involved, but when the funeral person came, she started asking us about music and things like that, and I just didn't want to be in the room, didn't want to be part of that situation. I did get involved and said my point, but at the time, that was the bit that I was just like, I don't want to accept it. I don't. You guys can kind of arrange the funeral. Whereas my sister really kind of enjoyed getting the photos out and things like that, which was nice.
How interesting that you went from being this super strong person to then being, no, because that's a final goodbye.
Yeah, completely. That was, and I was preparing to do a speech because my sister was like, I don't want to talk, but I think everyone kind of knew that I would attempt it. And I was like, nope, 100%. I want to do it. So I wrote a speech, me and my sister wrote a speech together, and I attempted to read it out. I thought I was confident. I was like, I've got this 100%. Stood up, and I mean, there must have been about 400, 500 people at my mum's funeral. It was a hell of a funeral. And I literally just looked at everyone and was just like, got about 4 lines down, and was just like, nah, just handed it over to the person that runs the funeral.
No way. But at least
I was so confident. And I was confident in myself. I was like, yeah, I've definitely got this. Didn't.
You were such a ballsy 15-year-old. This picture you're painting of you at 15 is, and there's a lot of questions I want to ask afterwards, obviously, in these last 11 years as well. Okay, so funeral. I mean, hell of a wake, I guess, after the funeral.
Yeah. Massive party. My mum ran a bar up at a golf club local to our house. She was always the life and soul of party. Like, she's got the most incredible laugh. So she literally ran this bar for a good few years and just loved that. So we just had a giant party up there. Like, we don't even call it a wake because everyone just literally just had a giant party.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing. Yeah. It's funny because Crystal, who was on episode 27, she was saying that she's always said she wants to go to her own funeral because her friends are the best, and she knows it's going to be this amazing party, and her friends are like, why don't you just have a party? And she's like, no way, man, my funeral is going to be much better than any party.
You're going to be a lot more drunk at my funeral than my party.
Imagine. Okay, so gosh, funeral's done, party's done. That's a hell of a hangover at 15 as well. There's only so many WKDs you can knock back at a funeral. I was going to say that's showing my age. I was going to say 2Dog or Hooch. That was our Alka Pops when I came out. But actually, speaking of age, I just turned 40 last week. You know, your mum's 42. Yeah. It's just, I mean, first of all, she's got 2 kids and teenagers. But that's she's so young. My God.
Yeah, extremely young.
Okay, so what about school? When did you go back? Oh, actually, had you finished school? Because you must have been GCSE age.
Yeah, so I was in the year of school, but this was 3 weeks before the summer holidays. So yeah, so what happened, and obviously the school found out about it. I think we had about a week and a half off, and no, it must have been about 2 weeks, and it was near the end of the holidays. I said to my auntie, I was like, I'd like to go back into school just to see my friends before the holidays and just kind of get some normality back in our life. So I don't think my sister came back, but I decided to go back for the final week of school before the school holidays, and I was just treated differently. I was just, yeah, it wasn't for me. I was like, right, maybe this week isn't worth it. But there was a giant sports day, and so we went in for that, and my mum, literally all my friends knew my mum, so they had basically arranged a sports day as a memorial for mum, and we didn't know this. So we've turned up, and 2 of our best friends at the time, Jack and Harry, they had all arranged for all our close friends to wear t-shirts with mum's face. Which was really nice. Yeah, so we went in and they were just doing just raising money just to help us, like, 'cause they knew that we were living with Susu. Susu's my auntie.
Auntie Susu, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, it was actually a really nice day, that part of it. But then obviously I'm glad we did have the 6 weeks to kind of let everyone kind of sink into everyone else. They did treat us differently when we then did have to go back to school.
Fine. Okay. And then, so this is a weird one if you're from outside the UK school system. So that was year 11. Did you then have a sixth form at your school? So you went back to the same school?
So I actually chose to leave school and went
Yeah.
to a different sixth form because of so it was in year 10. Then I went back for year 11. And then during that year, I was just, the teachers were treating me differently because a lot of the teachers knew my mum. Like, a lot of the teachers were at the funeral. Like, we live in quite a close knit area where everyone knows everyone. So that was when I decided to move to a different area for sixth form, and kind of wanted to just go somewhere where no one knew me, no one knew my story, and just kind of started fresh. Still very close with my friends from school and everyone from Croydon, but for my education side of it, I was just like, nope, I want to just go to school where no one knows my story.
So did you go quite far away, or?
It was in a different borough, so it was quite a drive.
Fine.
Yeah, so no one really knew anyone from our area, the age group anyway.
And did it help?
Yeah, I think it really helped. I think to get my head down and get the grades and stuff, it helped, because at the school I was at, I was just always like, they're just sympathising with me. Like, it was just, I didn't want that, so I was just like, no, get some normality. No one knows it, and concentrate on what I need to do. So yeah, no, I think it did help, and I did meet some incredible people at that school.
Oh, and that's good. And it's funny because the way my brain works is, this sounds awful, but as you say, you could have almost used that to your advantage academically, of course, to get. I'm not saying, but to get certain grades, and I always think about this. I don't know if you've listened to the first episode of my podcast with my brother. So he was 18 when Mum died. Yeah. And then that was in the May. He went to university, started university in the September. And I thought he was offered this like special dispensation, and he'd like turned it down because he's a hero. And he's like, no, like, no. I didn't do any of that. It was just like, and my point being is that he was like, no, I just want to do this for myself, ergo, and my mum. But yeah, that's such an interesting thing that you've done that. And you mentioned these people that you met then in this new school. Why were they so significant? Presumably you're still close with them now then.
Yeah, still good friends with some of them. It was just, I think I kind of was then growing up through this next stage of my life. It was like very fresh, whereas I kind of separated myself from everyone that knew me and my family and all my background. So like, it kind of helped me grow as a person, I think, and deal with what I was going through without anyone else's input, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
kind of like getting my head down and just kind of just dealing with it without anyone else judging or questioning. And so yeah, it was just kind of more relaxing and fun to do it with people that weren't constantly worried about me.
I love that. And I love the fact that obviously Auntie Susu, she would have had to almost give permission for you to do that, and that she supported you and knew that you were strong enough, and that would be the kind of thing that you would benefit from ultimately.
Yeah,
because I would think that she would almost be like, oh, kind of, I'm not too sure whether to let you go, kind of thing. So 11 years, so it's a long time, but you were so young. So how have these last 11 years been? Did you do you feel that you really grieved? Did anything pop up?
Yeah, so the first 4 years, I would say I was very much in that mindset of I'm fine. And then I went away to university. Obviously it was just drinking and everything else, and just enjoying that time. And it must have been the end of first year when it kind of hit me that I didn't need to be strong for my family, because none of them were here anymore. Like, I was in a different city, halfway across the country. Didn't need to be strong. Uni stress, maybe, it all just came crashing down on me. I think it might have been the drink, getting to know other people, and constantly like having to then tell your story because everyone was asking. And it all just came crumbling down. So that was when it kind of really hit me. I was very close with someone at uni that was also struggling mentally, so it's we kind of pulled each other through.
Mm.
But that was when I kind of finally actually thought, this is real life kind of thing. It's kind of, I was just kind of in denial, I would say, for a good 4 years of just being the strong one.
Yeah.
And that was when it hit me. So that was tough. And I tried to go through the counselling side of things, but with uni it was just difficult. So kind of just, I was actually quite proud of it, kind of pulled myself through that dark time. And since have actually been actually been fine now, rather than just saying I'm fine.
Yeah.
I've actually been okay about it. So
How do you think you got through that then? Like, what did you do to get you through that dark time in uni? So you were 19, right?
yeah. So at the beginning, I was just drinking, which obviously isn't the good thing to do.
We don't advise it, kids.
No, we don't advise it. And every time I was upset, we was just like, let's go out for the night. And it was just, that's when it came crashing down. So I then kind of just started journaling properly and just kind of getting my thoughts out and talking to one of these friends at uni and just kind of expressing how I felt and things like that. And that's when it kind of all just kind of together, we just kind of spoke about it and pushed each other through. So
I love that.
yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things, obviously, from my podcast, from your podcast, from the grief community, is like, just, you're not on your own. It's not yes, there's a difference between, and this is what I've learned through the podcast, is that you can only kind of deal with it yourself properly. No one else is going to heal you. Only you can do that. But to do it alone is tough. So if you've got, even as you say, if it's just that one person, yes, there are obviously lots of other people that help you through that journey, but you've clearly got this wonderful bond with this person that you met at uni. And again, journaling comes up again. Talk me through that.
So one of my friends has always done it just generally at life, like just every day, I'm grateful for and all that. And they just said, they were like, why don't you just write down your feelings? Because at the time I was someone that didn't want to talk about my feelings. Like, I never opened up to my family how I was feeling. I just kind of just didn't know how to talk about it. So I'm very good at writing letters and things like that. So, and still to this day, if something's going wrong, I still write letters to my family or even write letters to mum. So I just started writing it all down. So just literally anything I was feeling, would just get the book out and just keep writing, really. And then once it's on paper, you kind of like feel like it's just a relief off of your chest. So I just think that's one of the things that has helped me throughout the years.
Yeah, it really does come up a lot in podcasts. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing with the people you've spoken to on your podcast. Do you ever read back through your journals?
No.
It's weird, isn't it? And I didn't think I was going to read back through mine.
Yeah.
But
no.
Maybe you should. And do you still journal daily, or is it just when there's something you need to journal?
Yeah. No, I still journal, not necessarily, obviously my life's pretty good at the moment. So I journal a bit more when it's like something that I'm stressed about and stuff like that. But I do just do the standard of an evening, just write a few things down.
Yeah. I love it. I think
nothing, not pages worth like it used to be.
Really, yeah. And sometimes I was the same, and you just say, and I'm like, no, I really can't stop typing. What's going on here?
The worst thing is, I've got the handwriting of a 2-year-old, so I probably won't even be able to read it back.
Oh yeah, that's probably better though, isn't it? Imagine years to come when people read through it and they're like, "Oh, this is your great grandmother Emma." Not a clue what's going on there. Can't understand a thing she's written at all. What about, if you don't mind me asking, what about in terms of relationships? Has that had any impact, do you think, or?
Yeah, I would say I'm still kind of channeling this one, because I very much got scared of getting close to anyone, because obviously closest person to you has been taken from you suddenly. So I very kept everyone else at arm's length and wouldn't fully like get involved, because I was just like, it's not worth it, they're just going to get taken from me. So I had that mindset for a very, very long time. And then I did have a long-term boyfriend. Well, I'll say long-term for for my age, 3 years, it was a long term. And
Yeah,
he
God,
kind
that
of
is, yeah.
helped, yeah, and he kind of helped me challenge that at the time. And we're still very good friends now, but he kind of made me like trust that not everything was going to just disappear. But I still think now it does cause issues in my relationships, because I'm just a bit like, it takes me a long time to get involved because I'm just scared that something's going to get taken.
Yeah, it's like total abandonment issues, isn't it? Through
Yeah,
through
completely.
no fault of your own. So we spoke about your grief relief that kind of excuse me, got you through this dark time in uni, and you certainly do seem um very headstrong, and everything's fine, and you're having
Yeah.
a lovely chat about it. And I love the fact that, through telling your story of your mum, Ali, just got this big beaming smile on your face.
Yeah.
Then talk to me about that girl with grief.
Yeah. So
Or
I
the girl with
obviously
grief. Sorry, I've just totally changed
the
the
girl
thing,
with
because I'm that grief relief. You're the girl with
the
grief.
girl with grief. Yeah. Yeah.
Your
So I've
Croydon
always
came
been
out then,
someone.
by the way. Gail.
The girl,
The
proper
girl with
Croydon.
grief.
Yeah. So I obviously have journaled for a long time. I'm someone that likes to talk about my mum, whereas a lot of my family struggle to talk about mum still. Like still to this day,
Still.
we don't really like we talk about her like stories and things like that, but we never talk about that day as a family. We never talk about how other people are feeling. So I obviously have been journaling for ages. So I started the blog, and my sister was struggling at the time. So I thought, if I start opening up about how I'm feeling and what I've dealt with and how I've kind of dealt with the last 11 years, maybe it will get other people to start talking. So the reason for it really was kind of putting my journal out there to kind of let my sister and my family know that it's okay if you're feeling like this. We can all talk about it. So that was when I started the blog, and then I actually started the Instagram a year ago today. I just thought, yeah, let's just document it all. Had loads of time during lockdown, so then started putting it all on actual Instagram. And it did. My sister came to me instantly and started opening up.
No way.
Yeah. As soon as I started putting it out to the world, it was just kind of like, she just instantly just was like, oh, like we can actually talk about this rather than just shying away from it. Whereas
So did you
my
think
auntie
you
still
couldn't
struggles.
before, or sorry to interrupt?
It wasn't really that we couldn't. It was, I don't know. It's just kind of never happened. I think we were all so worried about upsetting someone else or triggering someone else.
Yeah.
I think because my auntie had done so much for us, it was like, well, it's still her sister. Like she's struggling in her own way, but she then didn't want to show any weakness because she was then bringing up 4 girls that have lost their auntie and their mum. So it was just kind of, it just kind of was we never really spoke about that day at all, really. It just kind of, we just went about life and kind of got on with it.
I love that. But then she approached you, but you said you were starting to say, sorry, that your auntie wasn't quite the same.
So my auntie still struggles, and she didn't read the blog or listen to the podcast for a while. She has now, which is really nice. But yeah, I think she's still quite hard because she doesn't want to show weakness, that because she is now the mum role model to not just 2 girls but 4 girls. So yeah, but we're getting there. Like the podcast and every time I talk about it and start the conversation, it does start by everyone else. So it is like on the family chat this morning, everyone sent a message in before I've even spoken. So it's progress. We're getting there.
I love that so much. Yeah, I really like that a lot. And I wanted to ask you, actually, just for quickly going back, what did your auntie think when she listened to the podcast?
So she was really taken back by it, because there is on the blog as well, there's actually, obviously I talk about her a lot. She's done a hell of a lot for us. So yeah, she just kind of sat back and she was like, I have listened, by the way, and just smiled at me. And I was like, okay. And I was like, because when it first happened, I just said to them, by the way, I'm going to put this out there. It's all your story as much as mine. If it's too personal, then let me know. But then she turned around and she was just like, no, she's like, I'm very proud of what you're doing. And you're obviously helping people talk. So yeah, so it was a nice feeling.
Everyone needs an Auntie Susu.
She is a woman.
She's quite a woman. How old are your cousins?
So,
or how old in relation to you guys?
So my cousin's a year below me.
Okay.
Then my sister's 2 years. My sister's 2 years above, and my cousin's above her. So we're literally 4 girls within the space of 4 or 5 years.
Oh my god!
So
and then
you can imagine
with your mum and your auntie. What a clan!
Yeah. So we move in at 15. I move in at 15. So we're 14 to 18. You can imagine the hormones in that house when we first moved into my auntie's.
But I bet you all had your own set of straighteners.
Yeah. We actually, the first year we moved in, my auntie actually bought us all different coloured pairs, so we wouldn't get mixed up and couldn't argue.
That is brilliant. There's so many questions that I want to sort of ask you, but it keeps like relating back to mine. And I'm always really conscious, and I don't know if you're the same with this in your podcast. I'm always really conscious of kind of like making it about me as opposed to making it about the guests. And you're like, and then I spoke to my friend about this, and she was like, but it's all relative. Like you're chatting to them as you would do. Yeah. And so you want to chat. And I was like, yeah, I know, but people listening must just be like, shut up. Like, we don't want to hear it. Although saying that, I've never actually told.
That's the point, though. We always talk about the grief, and you're yet to tell your story properly. So. Yeah,
it's true. Actually, I did record it with my brother. So my brother Russell actually kind of interviewed me, and we recorded it, and it was like proper, full on and full of emotion. And I didn't arm the record, so it didn't.
Oh no.
I know. And it was just like, do you know what? That was, I think, episode 10. So that was a long time ago. So it's just like, do you know what? I'm just not even gonna bother with that whatsoever. And how's everybody now?
Yeah, we're good. My sister's been for a bit of a tough year, but she's now got, so my sister had a child 5 years ago. So we have my niece called Lily. She's actually Lily Allison. Obviously after Mum Alison. So she kind of just brought so much happiness into all of our lives. So yeah, my sister's just bringing up her very proudly. We're all back in London now. So me and my sister both moved. I moved to Bristol. My sister moved to the Kent somewhere. So we've all now this year back in London. So we're all now back in London. They're still in Croydon, but we're still close enough. And we're all doing well. I feel like everyone is obviously 11 years on. We've all grown up so much that it's all just, we're still just as close, still a close knit unit.
That's what you need, isn't it? What do you do anything? Because obviously it's her anniversary today. Do you do anything on our anniversary or?
No, so we've never, like, we'll go up to the cemetery and stuff maybe over the weekend, but we've never marked the occasion. I think mainly because we both lived in different cities. My auntie always worked and always normally falls on a weekday, but we do always message and kind of do it. But I like to keep busy. I know everyone's always like, you shouldn't be keeping busy, but I do on the day like this. I'm just like, I'd rather talk about her happily and then get on with work. So
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, isn't it? And my brother Russell was the first anniversary we wrote some messages in a balloon and sent that off because we were all in Dubai together. But since then it's been very much like acknowledging her anniversary, but we really want to celebrate her birthday. You know, you don't want to kind of celebrate her death day. I was going to say that's really weird. The day that she died. So birthday thing. And we started this weird little tradition actually, because all my mum loved was a cup of tea and a cigarette. That literally was
and a cigarette.
The cigarette's not the tea. Imagine that. How does she die? Tea consumption. I mean, if anyone was going to die of tea consumption, it would be either my mother or my sister-in-law Stacey. Like, it's ridiculous. Anyway, so I'll get photos sent from friends of mine back home, and they'll have a cup of tea for my mum.
That's nice.
Which is that's really nice. What about Mother's Day? Is that something that kind of affects you, or?
No, I think Mother's Day we actually do quite acknowledge. Like, me and my sister will always spend that day together. This year we actually recorded my sister's episode of the podcast on Mother's Day. Which was really nice. So I think Mother's Day is more of a thing for us. I think because obviously my sister's now a mother, we kind of spend it with Lily and just kind of appreciating the next generation of life, really. But Mother's Day we do always spend together and always make a point of doing that. So
that's nice. I love the fact that your sister had a daughter. God help the men that enter your family.
all of our family are female.
That is just
All
brilliant.
female.
And you said, like, not making too light of the situation, be like, yeah, I just don't really know why my relationships aren't working out. And it's like all these men going, I literally can't handle all of
We're scared of all the females.
Imagine. Emma, before I let you go, and I know this was very last minute, but I always ask a guest for an Instagram post or a podcast that you love and want to recommend. So what have you got for me?
So for a bit of humour, Pun Hub. It's basic dad jokes, very, very amusing.
Is it on Instagram?
When you're stressed, yeah, on Instagram. When you're stressed or sad, hilarious. And then my podcast is the Grief Sofa. So that's one grief related, but the Grief Sofa run by two very amazing girls. And they're still quite light-hearted on the situation as well. Not too deep and sad. So yeah, it's another great grief podcast.
Grief. Oh, I've just followed the Pun Hub from my grief account, which is weird. So I will not do that. Anyway, okay. So the Pun Hub. Hang on. There's lots of Pun Hubs. Oh, Pun Hub Online, Pun Hub Official. It's the original one, isn't it? Pun Hub.
Yeah, the original.
Okay, right. We'll do it around. And then the Grief Sofa.
The Grief Sofa.
Okay, that's what we like. And plug your podcast. Go on.
So I'm the Girl with Grief on Spotify, Apple, wherever you find your podcast, and the Girl with Grief on Instagram. And then there is the blog, but no one really reads blogs anymore, but I still like to write it.
It's such a weird, and you still write it. I love it. Okay, no, well, you know, it's there. Do you link the blog to your Instagram?
Yeah, quite a few posts is linked in. So
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay. Amazing.
All the links in the bio.
All the links in the bio, and your Instagram is amazing. Puts mine to shame. It's all like these beautiful things. It's all color coded. Okay.
Got too much time on my hands.
Yeah, that's slightly worrying. What can we expect from your podcast?
So I'm just gonna record season 2 shortly. So mine's not so lighthearted, but it's just kind of just getting people to share their story and just get people talking, because that was the aim of it. Just make grief a less awkward subject. So that was kind of the reason for it. So as long as people are talking, then yeah, that was the aim.
Yeah, and I think you're doing really well, and more people like you in this weird and wonderful grief community that we're in. We didn't want to be in it, but we're in it now, and so we might as well try and help people as much as possible. Emma, thank you.
We want to help people get to this stage, don't we?
Yeah, that's
we
true.
want to help people where they can smile and laugh. And
yeah, but we don't want everyone starting a podcast.
We want them to come onto our podcast and talk about it.
That's right. Don't start your own podcast. Come onto our podcast. No, if you do want to start a podcast, that's fine. Go ahead. Anyway, Emma, thank you so much. I know it's the beginning of your working day and you've taken time out from your working from home to come and be on the guest, come and be on the podcast. And I know we're going to stay in touch on Instagram, and I'll give my love to everyone in the family, and especially Aunty Susu, mostly to her. And I'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much. Take
care. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.